this shit! It's time for history!
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of the Maneuver Meta. Today we got an additional guest on with us, and we're going over dynamic points, the tournament packet, so to speak, that Battlefront put out for mid-war to try and balance some of the problems that competitive players have ran into across the country and the world. My name is Lexi. I'm your host. With us today we have Danny and Chris.
Hello.
So here's our whole bit that we got. I did a little bit of editing for you guys so that you can see that basic red being reduced points, green being increased points, and I guess we can just jump right into the first portion, which is our little hobby bits. I am full speed ahead for Adepticon. I got loads of T55s and BMPs that I'm needing to paint. I'm doing a really neat three-tone camo on them. If you're interested in that, be sure to check out my articles that got published on Breakthrough Assault on painting Soviet greens and camos and such. So I'll link that down in the chat. And then I'm also finally getting around to 3D printing the majority of my Tau, so I can finally start actually painting that to get my Tau for 40K going. Danny, what have you been working on?
Been working on French for Team Yankee because I need that army for I'm gonna need it for Adepticon and for the Las Vegas Open at the end of this month, so I'm rushing to get ready for that.
All right, awesome. Chris, you got any projects you're working on?
A couple of things. So I have a World War One French army I'm working on, but I'm doing a snow camo instead of the traditional colors because why not? And I'm still kind of working on my winter themed Germans for mid and late war.
What are you using for snow effect?
Uh,
Like for
the
the texture paint or whatever.
Yeah, I use the texture paint from Games Workshop.
Okay.
The snow there. If I could find something, I'll show you.
I saw someone use, I forget exactly what it was. It's like baking soda mixed with something else, and it looked like better than any of the texture paints I've seen.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. It's like just with any old like snowflake type of stuff, and it just clumps it together. I tried it once.
Yeah,
I'll link an article. I'll link an article down below because I know Soren Peterson did a very in-depth look at a whole bunch of different snow techniques for various armies and such that he's done and kind of his experiences. But with that, yeah, I'll turn it over to Danny and Chris, and we can start going through these changes to mid-war. Take it away, boys.
Right. So the dynamic points changes, you can find them on Battlefront's website. You're gonna link that right in this video, Lexi?
Yes, it's gonna be down below.
Good. It's just changed points for a lot of units. Every country in mid-war has at least a few things adjusted. Most of the points changes are to like lightly armored tank destroyers and armored cars and medium tanks. Some of the heavy tanks got changed a little bit. I don't think they touched any of the infantry or anti-tank guns. Some of the artillery, like towed artillery, got changed a little bit too. I really like these changes. I think it's going to be interesting to see how what people bring to tournaments now. Because before the meta, so to speak, of mid-war was a little bit frustrating because it was really hard to play any kind of medium tanks except like the cheapest Panzer IIIs you could take and like Valentine's. That was about it.
Hmm.
Like if you brought an army of T-34s or Shermans or something, you were pretty much screwed. Because especially like Germans would take martyrs, which were like way cheaper than they should have been for their points. And let's see, 4 martyrs is 24 points now when it was like 16 before. So that's gonna change a lot.
I don't know about you guys, but everything down here has always been kind of wonky when it comes to meta. And a lot of the players in my store here at Gamers Revolt were pretty pleased to see a lot of their favorite things being reduced in point costs.
Mhm.
Especially the American player who does a company based off of the Big Red 1. And they're happy to see that the M4 Shermans went down in points to help get more infantry in their list.
There's
Is there-
actually a museum about Big Red 1 near us.
That is pretty sweet. I'll have to
Yeah.
come check that out.
Like it's called Cantini because General McCormick in World War One, who led that division,
Mhm.
that was his estate. So he like that museum is on his estate. It's about like the infantry division all through every war it's fought in. It's really cool. There's actual tanks there outside of the museum.
Oh yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. That's an interesting aside. But yeah, the Sherman's getting a points cost reduction. It's really good.
There
Yeah.
are some things that I didn't really agree with. Maybe it's because of like how my players are down here.
Mhm.
But like some of the finish, for example, I don't think their artillery batteries really needed to be increased. I mean, they don't
I
really.
didn't agree with that either. I also thought it was weird that they reduced the cost of the KV-1 by 1 point. When I really thought that 15 point, it was 15 points, now it's 14 points.
Yeah.
That was like the best heavy tank in mid-war. Like 15 points for so if something is armor 9 in mid-war, it's like nigh indestructible. There's almost nothing that can kill it.
Oh yeah, well,
And yeah.
I mean, I can see like them doing it to try to counterbalance the amount of points that you have to soak into the artillery now.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, like if you don't bring artillery, you're gonna have a hard time with their infantry.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I kicked myself in the ass for not bringing an artillery piece for whatever nation I'm playing at the time, and
Yeah.
so like, but 1 point isn't justifiable for a balancing act for that. I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I do agree with like the lighter things getting a point increase, you know, like the armor cars and stuff.
Yeah. So like what people were doing around here, especially at like big tournaments. I went to Gen Con twice and played mid-war there.
Mhm.
And the the really hard to beat lists. I did beat it once, but it was like just like a company of German armored cars, you know, what are they? The 231 or the 221s, yeah.
Yeah, the 21s.
Yeah. It's like 2 points for 3 of or it was 2 points for 3 of them. Now I think it's like 3 points for yeah. So they didn't even need to bring artillery because they could just assault your infantry with the armored cars, and they might not win like the first time,
Mhm.
but it's a 2-point unit, and like whatever upgrade you might give the infantry to use to beat back the armored cars costs as much as the whole unit of armored cars. You know.
Yeah, but I would like to see how these changes are going to really affect big tournaments personally, like up front and close. So I want to like actually try to make it to some of them if I can while running the shop down here.
Yeah.
I know that the heavy tank destroyers for the Germans being increased in point cost is going to really affect the players down here. For me, like the Ferdinand,
Yeah.
there was a gentleman that wanted to make a whole company based off of those, and with the point increase, I don't think it's going to be feasible for them now. But
yeah,
we'll see. To be fair, though, that thing, I don't even know really how to take care of that thing outside of assaulting it with infantry and hoping that it fails the counterattack.
yeah. One thing that you can kind of do with that is if you force it to attack by like picking defend, then it doesn't do as well because it's actually it's not that great at assaulting. But like infantry can't even really kill it in an assault because like you have to get it with like your one Piat or your your one or two bazookas. It's the only thing that can get it because it's top armor too.
Yeah, it is top armor too, but like my plan of action has always been to like surround it, and if it can't get out of combat,
Yeah, that is one way you can kill it.
And
you almost have to play hide and seek and win the game without killing it, but that's not easy to do.
No, it's not. Especially when you're doing a reconnaissance Russian army and you have all assault infantry.
Yeah. That actually kind of brings us to KV5s, which I think are going to be still really big. People were playing them even before.
Yeah, they got a point reduction. Let's see. I got the list up as we're talking about it, so I can make sure I get everything right. Yeah, it's 29 points now for 2.
Yeah.
So,
which is the same as 1 Tiger would be.
Yeah.
And like those things are even harder to kill than the Ferdinand.
Yeah, they are. Didn't the Tiger actually get a point increase, or am I going crazy?
Did it? Actually, it almost certainly did. Hold on.
Oh boy, this is why I need more sleep.
No, the Tiger is still the same points cost, but they since they changed the points of some of the upgraded Panzer IIIs, if you take the escort tanks, those have a different cost.
Yeah, that was change. Okay.
I think the Tiger was actually in the right place at 29 points each, though. So
I don't know how many in mid-war that I won with that thing. With just one of them, it's been ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember I got just absolutely destroyed by one Tiger. Took out my whole company of Churchills.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna see people play T-34s a lot.
Oh yeah, I know. Most of my Soviet guys that I bought up all the T-34s that I have.
Yeah.
Like I think I have a thing of T-43s laying around, but that's about it. Ugh.
Yeah. Those are good too.
Yeah, but I don't know how they're going to compare now with the point reduction.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like beforehand, they looked somewhat appealing, but now it's just like I could get so much more for my points worth and use those numbers to my advantage.
I think you'll probably see people playing lists that are like 10 or 12 T-34s, 2 KV5s, and maybe a unit of infantry, mortars or something, and then recon armored cars. And then that would be a really good list. I am a little bit disappointed in the changes that there aren't any changes to infantry because I feel like they need it. Those lists haven't been that great. And I don't know how with an infantry list you're gonna stop 14 T-34s coming at you.
Buildings, lots of buildings.
Yeah, buildings.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of really sad that they touched the Italians in the way that they did. Like I figured, I think that they should have done a little bit more with them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, because we only have 2 Italian players down here.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know at least one person that plays Italians. He's kind of like newly getting into the game.
Mhm.
Uh, and then actually, now that I think about it, I know a couple people who play Italians. Um, one of them said that he was pretty pleased with the changes, I think. Um, and the L640 is getting nerfed. That needed to happen because
Oh yeah,
people were spamming those just like armored cars.
yeah. Anything that's like a light vehicle kind of really needed to be bumped up
Yeah.
a little bit. Like I feel like you said, their infantry should have been touched at least too.
Yeah.
And I actually play mostly infantry too, so
Yeah, same.
I don't know how this is going to affect me in the long run for my games because I'm like looking at everything here. But we'll see how many more tanks I gotta eat through before I claim victory.
Yeah.
So what army do you mostly play? And
I mostly play British, but I play Finns too. Those are the only two that I actually play. So I'm in a bit of a rough spot because neither of them really got any better. And the things that they're bad against got better. Uh yeah. I had sort of figured out how to counter the like old meta. Uh as almost like an experiment, I went to like a local tournament in Indianapolis, which is easy for me to do because my sister lives there. So I just like stayed over at her apartment and went to it, and I actually ran 6 Bofors, and it worked disturbingly well because all of like the light tanks and armored cars would just get shredded by them. So wherever I deployed the Bofors, nothing could like move past that. And I came second in that event. But that's not gonna work as well now. Because like the one thing that I did super badly against in that is I in the last game I had to play against like it was like an infantry army with tank destroyers, but it had captured T-34s because it was
Mhm.
a German. And once like the pheasants on like the side of the board where the T-34s were got killed by something else, I didn't really have anything that could stop them. So my commandos had to just like fight them in the woods, and that didn't really work that well. So that game ended up being a draw that lasted 12 turns, but if it had kept going, I would have lost. So,
Okay.
the prospect of people putting like a ton more medium tanks on the board that just like I don't know what I'm gonna take with British that are gonna be able to kill that.
Yeah, I honestly feel like infantry. I don't know how historically accurate it is. I mean, I know they try to stick to some historical accuracy within the game,
Mhm.
with the the expectations that it is still a game, so you still have to have that give
Yeah,
and take. You know, but I feel like most infantry don't have enough anti-tank weapons with them nowadays. Especially now with the point changes, we're going to see a hell of a lot more on the table. And I know it's going to affect me with my guys. I play mostly infantry, like I said earlier. I play mostly Russians,
yeah,
Germans. I've dabbled in the Finnish. I actually like how they play out.
yeah. I really like how the Finns play.
Yeah, I want to get. I have a lot, and I mean a lot of German models. So I'm thinking about converting them into Finnish models, so that way I don't have to buy more. But I mean,
Yeah,
that's what happens when you own a game store. You end up getting all these pieces, and you're just like, what can I do with it?
yeah.
But like,
I got lucky and picked up a lot of my Finns like right before they like ran out of stock. Uh, and then like managed to snatch up some more as I went. So I actually have a lot of Finnish infantry. Um, they're neat in mid-war. Like, uh, they're kind of cheap for what they do. Some of the infantry, especially like the light infantry with the better tactics rating,
yeah, yeah,
and the like their AT rifles are surprisingly useful. But people take a lot of T-34s. They're not gonna be able to stop that either. I think like comparing to historically as far as this game, like a lot of people point out that there shouldn't be this many tanks in like this like the area that a board is that we play on, and like an infantry company in real life couldn't reasonably be expected to stop an entire tank company by itself. It would need a lot of support to do that. So you end up with like more anti-tank guns to infantry, and yeah, it goes on. And one thing that frustrates me a little bit is I think that like shape charges and like satchel charges, like panzerknackers and that sort of thing, were more effective in real life than they are in this game. Like you have to roll a 1 for it to do anything, pretty much.
Yeah, I think a thing that would help balance it is if they upped the infantry firepower rating in combat versus the top armor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do you know what I'm talking about? Like the satchel charges? Like
Yeah.
it's a command card that I think every country in mid-war has. Like you discard it and you get top armor through
Firepower.
AT3 against top armor. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
if they just reworked that card so it was a little bit more useful, then that would help a lot.
oh yeah, and isn't it like only for that combat too?
Yeah, it is that only that combat. That's part of what I was talking about with like the problem with armored cars before. They've increased the points so that helps. Is like the card costs 2 points, and if I'm being assaulted by a unit of armored cars that costs 2 points, and I throw away the card, and then the armored cars just break off and then assault me again the next turn when I don't have it.
Oh yeah, that's very problematic.
Yeah.
And that's why I think like if they just boosted the infantry anti-tank rating up by even like a point, they would be more deadly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One
It
of the
might
They
help.
have that problem less in late war, though.
Yeah, one of the roundabout ways that you could fix it instead of changing the core rules is in Bagration Soviet, they have a command card that's a 1 point upgrade for a unit that gives them a Strength 10 AT5 plus against side armor in close combat. It's no discard, it's a permanent upgrade. So something like that may be AT7, basically giving it a 28 millimeter that you can use in close combat. And then that way you don't have
Yeah.
to touch the base rules.
I mean, yeah, but that's only for like one unit.
Well, all of their units can take it, and so that specific one, it's limited to. So each time you attack, two teams can hit with that value.
Okay.
It actually works really well in late war. It's like it's actually almost just like a must take for all your infantry units if you play Soviets in late war. Um, yeah, implementing something like that in mid war would help a lot, I think. I isn't Battlefront actually accepting like constructive criticism on the dynamic points?
Yes, I do believe so.
Yeah.
I
I'm
mean,
not going to comment.
I mean,
All right, fair enough.
I mean,
I wouldn't expect any changes to actually happen for at least like 6 months to a year though, and that's
oh,
fair. Like it's got to go through a couple tournaments to see how it really pans out.
I'm pretty sure that they said not to expect changes for a year.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I don't blame them.
Yeah,
What?
me
What? Oh, okay. Who haven't we talked about? The Hungarians. How do you feel about the Hungarians?
So they've actually been good in mid-war because they play a lot like the Germans do. You can just do like so Hungarians have these like really really dirt cheap infantry. They're like hit on 3+, like green skill. So just like bottom of the barrel, but they can take like German tanks and tank destroyers and stuff. So you would just see people with like martyrs and a tiger with their Hungarian infantry, and that would be a great list. And I think they also have like what is it, Sorens?
I think that's how they're pronounced.
Yeah. Those are actually good in mid-war too, and I don't see any reason why they wouldn't still be good.
So
Yeah, I think they're playable.
my players down here that do play them call them discount Germans.
Yeah, yeah, they are. They are.
So, they're like, I have no problem doing that. And
They're the great value Germans.
yes, and they love how the wolfers there have the big blast, the salvo blast.
Yeah.
So they're just living it up with artillery left and right, and using the infantry to screen the tanks off down here. I mean, I don't know what everyone else is doing around the world, but these guys are having a blast doing that. Just literally having a blast.
Yeah. I don't really think there's any wrong way to play them. Like, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know as much about how Romanians play in mid-war. I've seen people play them in late war. I've never seen them do it in mid-war.
One of my cousins actually just won a Romanian mid/late war army in a raffle we did down here.
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten to see him play it yet. And I am really excited to see how that works out, to see a different army being played besides the big four. Because like I'm the one that started these guys to branch out into other things, because they didn't realize, like, oh, I can play as the Italians or this or that, even though it's on the show. But I mean, people get so focused on the big four, American, British, Russians, and Germans, that they're like, oh, I gotta play those. Those are the ones to do.
Yeah. So I think the big winners in this overall, like the countries that the changes are going to benefit the most, are probably like definitely Soviets, definitely Americans, losers Germans had it coming. I mean, that was just like the whole meta was just German Eastern Front stuff. So
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. A lot of the German stuff was overpowered in a sense, but I feel like they dropped the ball with the British. Like they should have done something with the Churchills.
Yeah, I think the Churchills needed, a cost reduction for sure.
Oh yeah, especially, I mean, even with like most of the heavy anti-tank stuff on the German side getting a point increase, it still would have benefited them to have a like, even if it was just a point,
Yeah,
that adds up.
because Churchills are 11 points per tank. It's a lot. You're only gonna get like 5 or 6 of them in a decent list.
If that.
Yeah, if that. They reduced the cost of the British Shermans too, but I mean, 3 of them is still 24 points. That's that's a lot.
In comparison to the Americans, they get 4 for 25.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like,
I think I might try doing another version of like that silly anti-tank gun list I did with the British, but I don't know. They could still try like spamming grants, but that's not going to work as well as it did before, and even before it really wasn't that great. So
no, it wasn't.
yeah,
I honestly have never liked the Grant as a battle vehicle. I don't know if it's just the way it looks or how it interacts.
it is pretty goofy.
And how do you feel about like the artillery for the British? Do you think that should have got some more changes, or because they only changed the base in the artillery expert card?
I actually don't mind. They should have left the artillery expert card as it was, I think. Although, so I have used the artillery expert card before, and it's nice because what you don't need a line of sight to where you move it to. So what I would actually do is my opponent would like place their artillery somewhere other than where I had ranged in. So then I'd move my ranged marker on top of theirs and then, blast them. I think British artillery is actually better in mid-war than it was in late war. We kind of did a podcast about this where we were talking about their artillery being really lukewarm in late war. But in mid-war, like the 25 pounders are actually good. Because their direct fire actually means a lot in mid-war. It's 18-9, which is pretty effective against a lot of stuff.
Outside of the heavy hitters, like the
Yeah.
Tiger and the KV5.
Yeah, like it's not going to do anything against heavy tanks.
I mean, just about anything but that, and you're golden.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that they could reduce the points of them. That's where I'm at, because that was like the bread and butter of the British back then.
Yeah.
So.
People say the same thing in late war too. Like they're 14 points in late war as well, and they really shouldn't be.
No.
I'm not broken up over that though. Like I'll still play them at 14 points for 4 of them. At least I think they nerfed the Italian captured 25 pounders, which people were like always taking, so now they cost the same as the British ones.
Yeah, they did. They added to that, which I do feel was kind of like needed.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Oh, another thing we should mention about British. So they increased the points cost of universal carriers to 3 points, which was just completely uncalled for. I don't think that they were part of the problem as far as spamming armored cars, because they just have a machine gun.
So out of all my British players here, I have like 5 of them.
Yeah.
At all.
Hold on, you were breaking up. Did you say they didn't play universal carriers at all?
They don't even bother with the carrier. They're like, I'm going to put it.
Yeah. The only use they have, as far as I can see it, is that like if you run a company of infantry, then you can take universal carriers in it as like cheap recon that's also in your formation. So your formation is harder to break. But like another problem the British have is that of all the anti-tank rifles in this game, which actually sort of matter in mid-war, theirs is like just the worst. It's only AT4 and it's slow firing. But you still pay a point for everyone you get.
For the Russian.
I think Chris is having connection issues.
Yeah, you're starting.
I'm sorry. What was that?
Pretty badly.
You still there, guys?
Yeah, we're still here. You cut out for a little bit.
Yeah, it's fun down here in the middle of nowhere.
Rural internet.
Most people go cow. Yeah, most people go cow tipping now.
Yeah.
Here, that's where I'm at.
Let's see, what else do we have to talk about?
It's not unusual to see an Amish gentleman riding a horse and buggy through town. Americans, really.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about like Americans, but like the M10s there, they got what?
Yeah.
Point
The
reduction?
M10s, that's definitely worth mentioning. I think you'll see people play those a lot now.
Yeah, and then the M27's got a point reduction as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if their priests needed a point reduction, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I do agree that almost everyone's AA got cheaper, I do believe.
Yeah.
Except the Romanians.
The British AA cost the same.
Yeah.
But that was
it's
like
either
the
the same
ones, weirdly enough.
Yeah. Have you run into a lot of airplanes in your games?
No, the only ones that I regularly see in mid-war are some people play the British Kitty Hawks, but the Sturmoviks, the Russian ones, just because they're like very cheap. the only reason they get taken. Other than that, never saw him in mid-war.
Down here, I've actually started everyone to play airplanes.
Mhm.
So like it's fun now. We're actually like trying to do like a house rule for dogfights, just in our mess around games.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, I don't know how they've been working on it, but like once they're done, I'll let you guys know how it works out.
Yeah.
No.
The way aircraft work in this game is a little bit of a bugbear. Like, it's just like the odds of actually uh shooting something down are pretty low with most AA, and the aircraft themselves tend not to actually do that much damage. They're just super unreliable. I've
Mhm.
also had them just completely destroy me before, though.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I had my Panzer IIIs die when they got bombed by some by some Sturmovix one time.
yeah. I mean, I've seen my planes do amazing, and then I've never seen them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, I feel like they could have done a point reduction on those,
Yeah, me too.
especially since, like you said, they don't really pack that much of a punch against tanks.
Yeah.
So like, there could have definitely been some room for that, you know.
Yeah.
So, oh, let's see. We talked about that. You talked about the Finnish, the Americans.
We pretty much covered all the big stuff. Did they reduce the cost of Panthers? I think they did.
Let me scroll up here real quick. I don't see them on the list.
Yeah, they reduced the cost of Panthers. I don't know if they reduced it enough that people will really play them, though.
Oh, there, yeah. Let's see. I
I don't know.
don't.
Do you think 30 points is worth it for 2 Panthers?
I'd rather have a tiger,
Yeah, exactly. I'd rather have 1 Tiger.
especially since they're what, green.
Yeah, they're green and they're hit on 3s.
Yeah. I don't know. I heard from one of my customers that play down south that there was a Panther spam list and it did really well. I don't know how it worked out per se because I wasn't there, but
That
they
might have
can
been
make
a
it.
late war thing.
I don't know.
Are you sure he wasn't talking about late war?
I was pretty sure because he just started mid war and didn't know what late war was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's like
Actually,
the
circling back to the planes, they did make the HS 129s cheaper. Because those were like absurdly expensive before.
oh yeah, you're right. But like, how much cheaper and is it worth it
They're
now?
only 11 points now.
Only 11 points.
Yes, that's a lot of points for planes, but before they were like 29 or something like comically ridiculous.
Well, now do you feel like any of these point changes are to just like kind of help move the models?
I actually don't. Like, well, asterisk maybe some of the like Soviet mid-war monster tanks, because like KV-5s were already good, and them getting better, and I think like yeah, that one for sure. Like Battlefront knows that the mid-war monster tanks tend to sell, especially because like a lot of people already own all the T-34s that they're ever going to use. Just a lot. Or like they own all the Shermans that they're ever going to use. But if you add something that wasn't in the game before, then people will buy it.
Oh yeah.
So I think that that may be one. that they're just trying to sell models on. But other than that, yeah.
Well, how about the airplane we just talked about? You know, the point reduction might actually make it so people want to actually buy a couple of those. You know.
Yeah, maybe. I think that might be a model that I mean I've never seen it on the shelf before, so
I had one on my shelf, and the very next week it was gone, and then I never bothered to restock it. No one ever asked
yeah,
about it again.
yeah.
But I mean, the reason I asked that is to prove that a point of that they're actually focusing on the game mechanics versus selling the models themselves.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Mid-war had like a shaky start, which is kind of what led us to here.
So,
Yeah. I think you just cut out again.
well, they did start the remake with Mid War. Hello.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I heard the last thing you just said. They did start the remake with Mid-war. And it was at first it was just like the North Africa British versus Germans, and then they sort of redid it later. Like each of them got an extra book, and then they went from there. But that's also like part of why the Eastern Front stuff was just so much better for so long, is because it came out
Mhm.
later and it was a little bit more refined, but there was still some like really silly stuff in it. Like I think before the changes, the one of the Soviet tank destroyers, it was I think it was the Su-70. No, not the Su-76s. I can't remember which one it was. It might have been IS-85s. There were like uh it was like 40 points for like 3 of them, like a unit that would lose a shootout against the Martyrs.
Yeah, they really
Yeah.
did do some stuff like that. I do wish that they would go back to the small books though.
Yeah.
That price point for that book was perfect for everyone down here. And
Mhm.
as soon as they did the big books, you know, I kind of lost some customers to that, which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But like,
You could
it's so much more compact. So
Yeah. You could sort of play with just the cards. Especially if you get a starter set, you'll get the one of the cards that has the formations on it. I don't know if you knew about
oh
that,
yeah,
but uh so
the problem
yeah.
the problem with that though is it doesn't give enough detail though. I feel
Yeah,
for the
it
fourth.
doesn't. It really doesn't.
It's a nice like for starting out and stuff like for the starter sets and things, but like after that, it's like I need more information. I need to know more things, and I feel like I mean, it's a small card or a foldable card depending on which one you get. You know, so there's only so much space you could fit on that.
Yeah.
So much.
I also like the historical background on some of the things. Uh a lot of them actually have really good information in there.
Oh yeah, I like all the little stories that they put in there.
Yeah, those are neat.
Yeah,
I think
especially.
yeah. I was about to change topic if you got anything else.
I was gonna just talk about how I really enjoyed the stories out of the Fallschirmjäger books.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how like they're talking about what are these Americans? They're like they're us. Get back in the hole.
Yeah.
I love
We're
those.
getting to the end of this. We got like less than 5 minutes left. So just like to wrap up, we already talked about like the winners and losers of this, so we got that covered. I think like for people playing mid-war, it's an interesting environment just with like Russians being hit on twos a lot, and you're gonna see their heavier tanks and like a lot of T-34s playing against like 4+ hit on Germans and like a lot of American Shermans hit on threes. is going to be somewhat different from like playing late war where there's Panzerfausts everywhere. Mid war is going to be really interesting now, I think.
It's going to be more tank heavy, I feel.
Yeah, more tank heavy. I think there's going to be even less infantry than before now.
Which is a shame for me. Like I said, I mostly play infantry, and
Yeah.
I'm going to definitely have to change up my play style for this.
Yeah. I still haven't even figured out what list I'm really going to go with.
I normally go with whatever sounds cool and make it work.
Yeah.
Hard flex, let's go.
All right. Well, we are now at the top of the hour, so sorry to cut you guys off, but we unfortunately did have a hard time stop. So I want to thank everybody who tuned in and listened. And if you guys like what you hear, please be sure to comment down below. Huge thank you to Gamers Revolt, one of the sponsors making this podcast possible. You're helping with this, and we sure as hell can't do it without you. As of right now, I don't know what the next podcast episode is going to be, so stay tuned and watch my social media to see when that announcement comes out. It might be some Adepticon prep or something. January 29th, I'm hosting a preparatory Team Yankee tournament for Adepticon. So it might be a bit on that. It might be a solo show of me just running over what happened with that. We'll probably have an episode of Danny going through his LVO experiences, kind of like when he went to Gen Con, if any of you remember that episode. I think that was actually the first episode you came on with, Dan. Was you going through your experience?
That was the Battle Alley one.
The Battle Alley one, not Gen Con.
Gen Con. Yeah.
But yeah, similar episode of that where Dan will take us through his experiences at LVO, which is, from what I've seen, that's kind of the cream of the crop in terms of if you're really wanting to test yourself. I mean, granted, we're in Illinois and you're going all the way out to Vegas, so you already got to be inspired enough to be able to get all the way out there. You know,
yeah, it's gonna be a tough one.
But anyway, again, huge thank you to everybody, and see you again next time.